The Ohio State Buckeye defense will have its hands full on Saturday afternoon when they take on the Penn State Nittany Lions in Happy Valley. An offense that may not be the most explosive, but certainly is veteran and certainly has the ability to be explosive at times, but can also control the clock and control the tempo of the game. It's going to be really important for the Ohio State defense to show up on Saturday, and we're going to preview the matchup here on tonight's episode of the Buckeye Breakdown podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Buckeye Breakdown podcast. Anthony Moeglin here with my partner and former Buckeye, Kevin Woidke. And tonight, we're getting you set when Penn State has the football, and that Ohio State defense, which we saw on Saturday, totally win a football game for the Buckeyes. And when they're on the field this Saturday, I think it's going to be advantage Buckeyes. The Penn State offense has been good at points this year, but also has been held in check. There's certainly been times this season to this point where that Penn State offense hasn't been as explosive as it's wanted to be, and even quarterback Drew Aller has been disappointing at times. And I know, Kevin, you and I, being both Cleveland kids, know that Drew Aller comes from Cleveland, know that he turned down an opportunity to play for Ohio State. So an awesome opportunity on Saturday afternoon for both the Penn State offense to go after one of the best defenses in the country, and for Ohio State as a defense to continue their really strong play and continue leading the charge for this Buckeye team.
Yeah, it's a put up or shut up game for both these two. Ohio State's defense looked pretty good, but against superior talent, they have started to falter a little bit, whereas Penn State's walking around like it's the biggest thing Big Ten seen in 50 years, but let's see if it really is. And this is kind of put up or shut up time of who really is the best. And it might even be a mute point of who's the best, because you got Oregon out there who's dominating everybody, and they don't even get to play Penn State this year.
And Kevin, before we get into the defensive talk here, wanted to bring something up. We haven't talked about this, so don't know if you've even seen this, but have you seen the doomsday scenario that if Indiana wins out and Penn State wins out and they both end up beating Ohio State, they'd have to both do so, that they would go to Indianapolis and play in the Big Ten championship game over Oregon? Have you seen this scenario?
I've seen it, and I saw it presented by an Indiana fan who said Ohio State's mid this year. Like, okay, let's pump your brakes here, dude. You've played nobody. See what happens when you start playing real talent. And two, they both have to get through us, which I'm picking Ohio State every game for the rest of the year. The only game I saw on our schedule that scared me a little bit was Oregon, and we lost by a point. Mm-hmm. Penn State's played a lot better than I thought they would all year. But, when push comes to shove, it's about when the helmets hit each other, and that's when, that'd be targeting. But it's when, it's when the guys start hitting each other.
You're good. You're good for one of those a night, man. You get me every single time. Kev, it's been really interesting watching this Buckeye defense kind of evolve a little bit, right? For early on in the season, if you break this season up into quarters, that first quarter of the season when we maybe weren't playing the best opponents, you and I talked a little bit about, hey, they have this bend don't break style. And it's not something that's a dangerous game to play, because you can get into certain scenarios where you face a team like an Oregon or like a Nebraska or that upper echelon of talent where that can come back to bite you and bite you in a big way. Outside of that Oregon game, we saw it on Saturday against Nebraska. They gave up some yards 20-20, but when they had to buckle down and really tighten the straps, man, they did it. And it's an impressive way to – if you're going to live by it, you're also going to die by it. But they have the guys, and you kind of saw it. They have the guys that if they're going to consistently do it, they may be able to be successful in doing it too.
Yeah, you need to rotate. Coach Day's talked on it today. You need to rotate that interior line if you're going to keep having that bend don't break, because the one thing about bend don't break means you're out there a lot. It means you're out there for some long drives, but then you stop them at the end. And that's where you need to make sure that you have freshness, whether it be at the linebacker, defensive line, even all the way in the secondary. You can't have these guys that are out there for, 70, 80 plays, and it's not like quick little 3 and outs. They're working their way down the field, and then they're getting shut down in the goal line. That's what's happening.
I think of that one drive from Saturday where they came out of Nebraska comes out of half, and they start running the ball up the middle, right? First couple, probably disappointing, probably something Ohio State didn't want, but they go 3 straight chunk plays, and then they're in plus territory, and then they work it all the way down, and they end up forcing a punt. It was a great job. They force a punt, and then the punt goes inside the 5-yard line, or however that drive ended. Ohio State had then a quick 3 and out on offense, and then the defense was back on the field immediately. And that's exactly to your point of like they have to be really conscious of getting guys in and out, because those drives, when they start to become a little bit longer, especially now, we're going to be in week 10, which hurts my heart to say. We got Maction starting next week. I heard that today, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing. And while I absolutely love it, it breaks my heart because the season's kind of getting towards it's November come Friday or come Saturday. But regardless of all that, you start getting later in the season. You get some of those drives put together. It's imperative, especially for those big cats up front. And even some of the guys on the back end, too. Got to have that rotation. That's why building that depth, really, Kevin, is so important.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome there. So as the Buckeyes continue to employ that, that bend don't break style defense, one of the things that was a new wrinkle that we hadn't seen really to this point is when Ohio State gets the third down, they have been kind of vanilla, frankly, in their coverages and in their blitzes and all sorts of all types of that kind of stuff there. And, when they're vanilla, they can be taken advantage of, and doesn't matter who's on the other side. It's easy to do so. One of the big things that we saw and was listening to one of Joel Klatt's shows, earlier this week, they were talking about how Ohio State really had an emphasis, and Jim Knowles specifically had an emphasis on some exotic blitzes. Nothing crazy, but just something different that offenses who watch the tape and are preparing for this Ohio State defense hadn't seen before. And, doesn't necessarily put the defense in conflict, but it's really good to just mix that up because they have to start doing that kind of stuff as they get later in the season against some better opponents.
Yeah, and that's where that's one of those games against a team like Penn State with a veteran quarterback like Drew Aller will be a little bit on the harder side because, those work against a freshman who's seeing all this crazy stuff getting thrown at him and he's getting rattled and throwing the ball where it shouldn't be. But Drew Aller's seen all this before. The other thing is it's a high-risk type mentality where if you don't get home, which the point of these exotic blitzes are to get home because you have the players in the D-line and you have the players at linebacker to get home. You need that play, you need that X factor that's going to get like a JTT last time we were in Happy Valley. That kind of thing where he's getting home, he's making plays type thing. And that's my opinion. When you're bringing these exotic blitzes, it happened a few times against Nebraska. They can burn you, but if they get home, they're huge.
Yeah, it leads to those massive chunk plays. And like you said, too, you can't get burnt on it. Think back to that one where Raiola broke the pocket. Nebraska did an awesome job picking it up. And when you're in man coverage on the back end, everyone was kind of locked on their guys. Raiola found a seam and kind of took off. But definitely an exciting thing to see from this defense because, frankly, the criticism of Jim Knowles has gotten louder and louder and louder each week as Ohio State's kind of progressed through the season. And, it's a big opportunity for them on Saturday as well. We talked about how the offense has a lot of weight on their shoulders. The defense, while they did, frankly, win the football game for Ohio State on Saturday, they're going to have to show up and potentially have a little bit of that magic that they had last week. So, Kevin, turning the page over to the other side of the ball, we'll get into the quarterback specifically here in a little bit. But when we're talking about this Nittany Lion offense outside of the quarterback position, I've been so excited to have this conversation with you because we finally get to talk about an elite tight end. So I'll let you start. Do we want to start with running back because they got a great running back? Do we want to start with tight end? Where do you get to pick? Dealer's choice for you.
Let's start with the running back. Give those guys their flowers, and then we'll move on to the tight end.
Then we'll move on. Two-headed monster in the backfield. Kind of similar, Kevin, to what Ohio State employs. Not quite as good, I would say, but led in the backfield by Kaytron Allen, who's got 500 yards rushing on the season, but less of that and more of him averaging 5 yards a carry. When you're averaging 5 yards a pop, that is keeping your offense ahead of the sticks. You and I talk about it every single week, and it is it's so important. In Penn State, they're kind of that same type of personality that we've always known them to be. They're going to be hard-nosed, and they're going to lean on the running game, regardless of who's pulling the trigger in the backfield, whether it is Aller, whether it is Prbula. They're going to lean on the run game, and they're going to run it first. They're going to start with Kaytron Allen. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year. He kind of is their guy when they get down low in the red area. But also, too, Nick Singleton is another guy that they sub in advantageous situations. He's got 75 carries for 483 yards. So he's averaging 6.5 yards a carry, finding the end zone twice. So 2 guys in the backfield, Kevin, that Ohio State's going to have to be really concerned about and make sure that there's a huge emphasis on not letting them get rolling to keep Penn State out, kind of out of rhythm.
Yeah, we gotta jump on them early because we've seen in the past where teams beat us with a 2 running back system. Mm-hmm. And when one gets tired, the other one jumps in. And when, for instance, look at it 2 years ago when Blake Corum's pounding the defense, and then Connor Stalions is giving you the plays, and then Donovan Edwards comes in, takes the top off. That's just, it's hard to compete with. And take the jive out there. But either way, look at teams like the Cowboys in the NFL. You had Zeke hammering this defense, and then you bring in Spears.
It was Pollard. That was when Pollard became he became a household name.
Pollard you come in, you throw a little dump pass to him, or you hand it out to him on a jet sweep, and he's gone. And it's just, they're not used. The change of speed is not what they're used to. So getting it down to 1 running back, getting it down to, when we played Saquon, they had 2 running backs, and we were beating them. So they couldn't put us away. So they never were able to use that 2 running back system. We got to lean on our lead horse. He's the one we got to go with.
And you'll see for them, both guys in every game this season have gotten over double-digit carries. So you're going to see a lot of them, especially, maybe one gets banged up or whatnot, but they're both capable dudes, and they're both guys that, hey, it doesn't matter if it's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, they're both going to be impacting the football game. So definitely 2 guys to keep your eye out. And when they get rolling on the run game, it's very similar to Ohio State. I think these teams are built kind of similar. I think Ohio State has a little bit more explosion to it, but they start with the run game, and then when that gets going, they like to throw the ball down the field. We'll keep the best for last, Kevin. Let's talk a little receiver, because their receivers, frankly, while we talked about their running backs being very good, their receiving core is not very good. This is not a group that scares you even in the least. This is one where it's advantage Ohio State, even with we hear the conversation about Denzel Burke maybe having an off year and not being the lockdown guy that we thought he was going to be. But on Saturday afternoon, Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun are going to be the best players on the perimeter. They're going to be facing kind of a group of guys that, is just they're just okay. Led by Harrison Wallace, who comes into the game with 22 catches for 350 yards and just 2 scores. And he's their second leading receiver, and a name that is familiar to Buckeyes, familiar to you, came in just a year after you, but Julian Fleming, the former Ohio State Buckeye who couldn't work his way out at Ohio State. Remember, did transfer over to Penn State looking for a fresh start and really hasn't panned out. To this point in the season, just 10 catches for $148. No scores. So their receiving core, Kevin, is really, and to say it nicely, it's just a disappointing group.
I mean, they are, and that's the only way to put it. I feel bad, but I mean, stats don't lie, and they haven't played up to what they thought they were. I mean, Julian Fleming, when he left Ohio State, people were like, "Uh-oh, he's going to Penn State," but he hasn't really panned out. I don't know if that's on Drew Aller. I don't know if that's on them. I don't really know if that's on the play designs. I'm not sure, because I don't tend to watch Penn State games. I don't really care about Penn State. But that is where it's you got to ask the question. And if I were to go back and do a deep dive into the film, I'd be able to answer that. But I had better things to do, like watch paint dry, than go back and football game.
You're on it tonight, brother. Let's go. He's got them all. He's got them all dialed up. One guy to keep your eye out for is Nick Singleton, right? We talked about him running the football. He's a guy that when they get into the red area, he is an absolute threat down there, down to catch passes and to score. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year on just 13 catches. So not a ton of yards, 13 catches, 150 yards, but 4 scores. So when you get into that red zone area, not only do you have to deal with some receivers, but you got to have your eye in the backfield for Singleton coming out. All right, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean
Tyler Warren, the best tight end in the country.
He is. I mean, that's the only way to put it. I mean, maybe behind G. Scott, but I mean, Tyler, he's a beast. He's got 47 receptions for 560 yards, and then he's got 7 rushes for 40 yards. I mean, he's got 1 touchdown rushing. He's got 4 touchdowns receiving. He's got a combined 600 yards as a player on the offense. I mean, he is what their offense runs through. Whether it be Drew Aller back there in pocket, whether it be Perbula, I mean, he's their whole team. And this is going to be a huge game for Sonny Styles, for Cody Simon, for whoever's playing safety next to Caleb Downs, that they got to cover him. Yeah. And that's the reality of the situation. Is he's 6'6", so he's going to jump out the gym. He's only 250 pounds, so you might be able to jam him at the line a little bit. But or maybe he's like 260, I think he's like 257 or something. I don't know. But, I mean, you got to go out there and that's going to be who you want to take away from this game. Yep. If you can stop the run and take away Warren, these receivers have shown that they can throw the ball. Mm-hmm. So double team Warren, make these guys go make good catches, go make good plays, which they really haven't. Again, I don't know if they have or if they just lean on Warren to do everything for them, because it seems like he does. I mean, after the 2 quarterbacks, he's got 40 rushing yards. He's got 1 rushing touchdown. He's got a long of 16 rushing yards. Show me a tight end who runs the ball for 16 yards. I don't know what did they do a quarterback sneak and he took it and just kept running? I don't know, but I mean, he's just a machine.
He's unbelievable. And the game to look back to is the USC game. It was a game that Aller was struggling, especially during the first half, and that's something we'll get to here when we get to the keys. But they were struggling in the first half, and in comeback mode, they didn't lean on a receiver. They didn't lean on their running backs. They leaned on Tyler Warren at tight end. He finished the day with 17 catches. This is ridiculous. I can't believe I'm saying this. 17 catches, 224 yards, and 1 touchdown. The touchdown was a sick catch in traffic, going up over a guy and taking a big hit. I mean, he is, everything you think. When you think of Penn State football, it's like, right, tough, physical, slow, get the ball, move the sticks. It's like this guy is Penn State football, and he is going to personify that come Saturday. Going to be exciting to watch. We'll see how they handle him, because you rarely see tight ends get doubled, right? You look at like Travis Kelce's the only one that really like comes to mind. George Kittle maybe, but like it's hard to do that just because where they're at on the field. We'll see how Ohio State looks to handle him on Saturday afternoon. All right, Kevin, we skipped over the quarterbacks. Time to get to them. It's going to be a combination of Drew Aller and Perbula come Sunday, because Perbula, frankly, like last Saturday was his like welcome to action. Bo Perbula on Saturday against Wisconsin finished 11-13 for 98 yards and 1 score, but that was after Drew Aller started the game and left with injury. A couple important things. This Drew Aller injury, they're going to milk out a little bit. They're going to be able to all week long go, he's going to be questionable, this, that. Advantage them for that, because Ohio State now has to prep for 2 guys who are just totally different. Drew Aller, more that drop back pro style guy. Bo Perbula, more of the college style, run it, throw it, not as accurate, but kind of that athlete type guy. It's going to be a challenge, whoever's back there for him, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably 2 different defensive schemes you're going to run based on who's out there. I mean, Trace McSorley was more like a Bo Perbula. I wish I could pronounce names like that. Not good at that. But Trace also threw the ball better. So when he's out there, Bo, I think you can kind of be even more run heavy, because he's averaging 8 yards an attempt. He's throwing at 80%, but he's only thrown the ball 23 times. Yeah. I mean, he's got 18. I wonder how many of those were Tyler Warren, and 1 interception. But that's where, he's a young kid. He's what year is he? Is he a junior? Sophomore. So he's from York, Pennsylvania, which where is that? And I mean, that's just it's just tough when you got two quarterbacks that are so vastly.
Yeah.
Drew Aller coming from Ohio, coming from drop back, that Ben Roethlisberger style thrower. Well, you can also run the ball too. I mean, he's got the third most rushes on the team for over 120 yards. But I mean, they're looking at 4 yards to carry with 3 touchdowns. So he's more of a close yardage thing. Sees an opportunity, takes off, and gets it.
Yeah, Prabula is going to be interesting. It's funny you say Trace McSorley. He's a carbon copy. He's going to look just like Trace McSorley used to, and it's going to be a challenge. And regardless of Aller's health, they're going to use both, in my opinion, and they should, because, like you said, it's two totally different. Attacks. It's two totally different offenses that Ohio State's going to have to prep for. So really interesting to see how the Buckeyes will handle it. And it'll be curious to see how Penn State handles it as well, because they're going to have the opportunity to kind of push the tempo from that point of view. All right, Kev, here we go. You're back in the coach's room. What are the keys to the game? What are the keys to for the Buckeyes to get a victory on Saturday? And maybe not so much as, hey, this is going to be the result in them winning the game, but what does Ohio State have to do on defense to shut this Penn State offense down?
Take the air out of the stadium early is what I'm going to say, and that comes from my opinion. The taking Tyler Warren out of the game. I mean, he is their whole offense. It's pretty evident. It's him and the two-headed monster running back. But when you look at it, if you get into a third and long stay, you're not going to hand the ball off. Like, you're going to have to throw the ball. And if you can take Tyler Warren out of the game, get a couple quick 3-and-outs, it'll flip this game completely on its head, as long as the offense does what it's supposed to do against this defense.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's a hard task. It's a tall task to do, because he is such an elite dude. And he's a guy who, you rarely say it, but a tight end that can totally change the game for you. For me, it's going to be containing the quarterback. And I say containing because there's going to be, like we just talked about, there's going to be two different offensive attacks for Penn State. They're going to have Aller in there where it's that pro style under center, handoff, play action fake, all that stuff, and that straight drop back. So when that's the case, get after him, make him uncomfortable, make him really have to move in the pocket, especially with that knee injury, and make his life really, really uncomfortable. When Prabula's in the game, contain him. He's going to be a guy that is going to try to use his athleticism to make big plays. And Ohio State just shouldn't let that happen. Ohio State's the more athletic team by a wide margin come Saturday afternoon, and they're going to have to show it. So I think if they can do those two things, right, contain the quarterback and slow down Tyler Warren, and I don't want to say this, it could be just a total shutdown on defense. Penn State's offense doesn't have the explosion that Ohio State does, that when Ohio State's struggling, they can rip one off where Jeremiah goes for a big one. Penn State doesn't have that. So if you can cut the head off that snake, you're going to be in good shape here. So Kevin, before we get out of here, any final thoughts when we're thinking Ohio State defense versus the Penn State offense?
So at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again. This is a put up or shut up game. I'll be interested to see which of the two teams does which.
Yeah. It's time, man. This is the one you want. And for Penn State, this is their opportunity, probably what they think their best opportunity to get Ohio State. For Ohio State, it can be a get right game and get back really into the mix of everything you want. Everything's still on the table for both these groups, and it'll be really exciting for both ways. So we'll be there on Saturday afternoon. Kevin's going to be filling in for my role. I'll be off camera this weekend and handing my responsibilities over to Kevin. So you'll get Kevin and Brennan all weekend. Everyone will be in great hands. Kevin, I can't wait for your post-game reaction. I'll be watching in just to see what happens on Saturday afternoon. But subscribe to our channel. Get alerted whenever we start bringing you content. We'll be live with you on Saturday morning before the game, giving you a pregame show, and then we'll be live with you right after with postgame, our postgame thoughts, the postgame press conference, and a bunch of interviews from all the players. So you'll get that all here on Ohio State Buckeyes on SI. on our written page, si.com/college/Ohio State. That link is right below. So head over there where we got you covered all wall to wall for all things Buckeyes as we get set for what's going to be the biggest game in the country this weekend, where the Ohio State Buckeyes take on the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon Eastern in Happy Valley. Should be a fun one. Appreciate you all hanging out with us tonight.